Hello and welcome to the Baji Rao IAS Academy. Today is 31st October and we are going to discuss the daily Hindu newspaper analysis. Today we have to discuss 6 important articles and that will be dealt with prelims and mains as well. So for the mains we have the 3 articles, like the article related to the urban flooding, that is also very important. And in this article we are going to discuss basics about the flooding and what the impact urban flooding is having on the population and why India is actually facing the problem of urban flooding and how we can deal with that. Okay. And the second article will be related to towards the stabilization of US China tide. Actually, this article talks about the US China relation, the tussle, and how the current meeting or the summit of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation can help to reduce the disturbance in their relations. Okay, but do you think that in the current scenario that we are seeing between the US and the China, the relations will be going to improve? The chances are very less. Okay, because US sees China as the biggest threat for their hegemony. Okay, that's why there is a chance that despite all these meetings and the talks, the relation, the deeper relation that was earlier visible between the US China relation may not be coming to the present scenario. Okay, and the third article is related to the fair investigation, like the recent Kerala bomb blast which occurred on 29th of October, and what the person, which is basically the culprit, said that the community was spreading the anti-national sentiments. So the investigation should be fair so that we can conclude to the right point, and the right information should be coming from the investigation. That is also very important thing to note. So after that we have the 3 important articles in discussion, and this will be both for prelims and mains. But here is a question for you. I will be providing you definitely the article, but here you have to tell me about Aralam Wildlife Sanctuary, where this wildlife sanctuary is located. Okay, and if you don't know, then you should open the map or you should open the list of the wildlife sanctuary if you do have, and try to give answer. Okay, that will help to recall your memory power. Okay, that will also help you to save this data for the longer term. If you try to answer any question, that means you are engaging, and engagement means what? That the information, the remembering capacity of that information gets enhanced. Okay, so in the chat box you can definitely comment the answer, otherwise we will be going to discuss all of that. Okay, so this will be the topics we are going to discuss, but we have a rapid fire up session for the prelims, and here you have to solve the question of the prelims. Okay, so the question is, the black cotton soil in India has been formed due to the weathering of A. brown forest soil, option B. fissure volcanic rock, option C. granite and schist, and option D. shale and limestone. So actually you have to tell the correct answer. And remember, when we talk about black cotton soil, I will try to provide you the distribution. Okay, this is the map of India. Okay, and where the black cotton soil is located, it is basically in the region of Gujarat, Maharashtra, okay, and some parts of Telangana, all of that. But tell me, why black cotton soil was formed? Actually the question is asking all of it. Okay, and weathering means what? When we talk about weathering, it means the granular disintegration of the rock, and when the rock basically disintegrates, so they reside at that location. That is the phenomena of weathering. But tell me the phenomena when this weathered rock started to transport. Okay, starts transportation. So what the process is called? So you have to tell me the basic answers. However, the answer of this question will be discussed in the last session of the article. Okay, in the last session of the discussion. So please wait. And if you are liking our initiative, please do like, share, subscribe, and kindly don't forget to share within your friend circle, okay, so that your friend should also be benefited. And apart from that, we as a community member will be growing. And one more thing, I request you that please do join our discussion. Whenever I try to ask any question from you, try to answer them. It will help you to be in the discussion mode, in the participatory mode. And you know the philosophy of participation, that whenever you participate in something, that means you engage in something. And engagement means what? Engagement means learning. Engagement means understanding. It will help you to grasp the idea, the points, the data in a great way. Try to experiment all of that. Okay, so I have asked you more than 2-3 questions today in this session itself, and again we will be asking more. So you have to just engage, you have to answer, and definitely you can see the improvement. And in the mains or in the prelims, the information which you have understood, the information which you have like observed, that will help to answer the question. Okay, so let us start with our discussion. And the first article is related to the GS paper 2, and it is related to urban flooding. Tell me, what do you mean by urban flooding? Maybe you have seen the cities which recently has been flooded. You can take the example of the Chennai flooding. Okay, you can take the example of Mumbai flooding. You can take the example of Patna flooding. All these cities, you may see that in the monsoon period, they start facing urban flooding. And recently, in this year, Delhi, which has the lower probability of facing urban flooding, but also this capital faced urban flooding. So, how we call urban flooding? How we call flooding? In simple terms, you can understand that a river which have a channel or a pathway, and water flows from that pathway. Okay, and when the water flows, let's say due to the rainfall, the water starts increasing in volume, because when there will be an increment in the water, in the supply of the water, that means what? The water level in the river will start expanding. So where the water will expand, in the length or in the width? In the width. Okay, so we have a river channel, and the water flows via this river channel, but on the side of the river we have the flood plain area. Okay, flood plain area, these are the flood plain area formed by the river itself. But due to the loss in the water from historical times to the present, the actual area where water is draining in the river starts shrinking. So that's why the dry region becomes the floodplain. Okay, so these are the floodplain area. But whenever there will be excess supply of water, that means that the surrounding region, okay, will be flooded. So that is known as the flooding, urban flooding. Okay, and when we talk about the urban flooding, you may see that around the river plain, okay, around the flood plains, the infrastructure creation, the household creation is common. And that's why whenever flooding comes, these people, these infrastructure face the heaviest loss. Okay, so that is the basic idea of flooding or urban flooding. Okay, and one more thing, we have the problem in case of urban flooding, like if there will be no proper drainage of the water, that means the water will be stuck for the longer time, and it will also cause the flooding like situation. Okay, that's why in Maharashtra, in other important cities, if there is a drainage jam, okay, if there is like water not passing through the drainage, that means it can also promote the flooding. So there are various kinds, various cases, causes of the urban flooding. Can you tell me more cause? Okay, that will help you to understand in a better way. So that is the basic idea of urban flooding. And we know that the devastation caused by the urban flooding, as you can see in the image itself, okay, these are the roads that are going through, but look at the sideways, look at the household, they are getting damaged due to the water which has been trapped here, okay. So India's urban areas is facing flooding most often, and according to a study led by the World Bank, flood risk in many cities is rising. And why the risk is rising? Because one thing you need to understand, that urbanization is happening in India, okay. And due to the urbanization, due to the rapid urbanization, the population is increasing in the urban cities, okay. Earlier there used to be the population in crores, okay, and now we have the population in multiples of crore. So that means what? Population is increasing, so the area is limited in the urban city. That means they will expand, the people or the household will be expanded along the vulnerable area. And where is the vulnerable area? The floodplain area, okay, because these are low lying areas, and in case of the monsoon, in case of the heavy rainfall, this area gets filled up with the water, okay. And remember whom these people are. These are basically vulnerable sections, the poor persons, to whom the flooding will affect the most, these people, okay. So that is the important point which has been articulated in this article, okay. So that is the point. And also, according to the paper, since 1985, human settlements in flood prone areas have more than doubled, okay. That is showcasing the increase in urbanization and the population, okay. So that means the unsustainable urbanization case in India, and not in India, in many South Asian countries and their capitals and their cities, these problems become common. But India, due to the higher population, the devastation is very much high, and this is unsustainable in the sense that in the coming future, this will not benefit the population. This will only harm the population. Why? We have a climate change, the upcoming disaster potential that can cause by it, okay. That is the point. And when we talk about how India is at risk, so India is at risk, we have already talked to you that urbanization is increasing, the population of the vulnerable section is basically migrating here in the floodplain area, and we know that the floodplain area is risky, okay, risky. So what happens, that if there is a flooding like scenario, that means the population here will be affected very much, okay. And you can see from the data that India is the third after China, Vietnam among countries with new settlements expanding into flood prone areas, and all from 1985 to 2015. This data talks about, okay. And there is one personality, that is Raj Bhagat Palani Chami, who is a geoanalyst, okay. And they said that at the heart of the flood related hazards is where we expand our city. That means we are expanding our cities in the flood prone areas, okay, in the flood plain areas. Rather than protecting the flood plains, we are expanding ourselves into the flood plains. And what will be the repercussions? The repercussions we see in the form of flooding, in the form of devastation, okay. In the recent scenario, we have seen that in Mumbai we have the landslide, we have the people that lost their lives, okay. So these are the scenario which are common. And here in this article there is a talk about case study, in Bangalore, when there was a flood in Bangalore, it costed about 225 crore. Remember, for a country, for a developing country, the loss of 225 crore is very much, okay. And why this crisis in Bangalore? It was because the local topography was covered by the people And this local topography was not but only the flood prone areas. Okay, flood prone areas. So both Mr. Palanachami and Dr. Bhan agreed that risks are disproportionately higher for those living in the informal structure, because in this lower flood prone area, who the people lives, the vulnerable section. Okay, and their livelihood risks are also very high. Their house structure is like informal in nature, and you may have definitely seen these pictures. Okay, so that means the threat, the risk to these persons are very much high. Okay, so on the one side, they are poor. On the another side, their income is less, and on the another side, the vulnerability due to these risk is also very high among them. Okay, and when we talk about why urbanization has expanded into the flood prone areas, it is actually because population is rising at a rapid pace, and urbanization is also rising. So to substantiate, to compensate the excess population, where will the population will settle? The population will settle in the floodplain areas, because these areas basically are are not occupied by high class person. Okay, because they know the risks, but these are occupied by the daily wage earners. Okay, or the poor peoples. Okay, and here the government regulations, despite we have the regulations, the government actions are very much less. Okay, and that's why there is a expansion of the population in these region. Along with, we have the governance issue. Like we can take the example, when environmental regulations are applied to the new constructions, they are often applied only to the big infrastructure projects. Small infrastructure projects are basically ignored. Okay, and also people violate existing government regulations, like we have a rise in ecotourism resorts on the forest land, and what will happen? Definitely the excess water which was absorbed by the forest land will not be absorbed. That means it will create flooding. Okay, so these are the factors that are contributing, along with the construction of large structures, government buildings, and religious structure as well on the river flood plain. The main issue here to point out that on the floodplain, if there is the intrusion here, that means there will be a devastation, there will be a urban flooding. Okay, so what is to be done? So, as per the suggestion given by these two personality, they caution that we cannot avoid now the expansion of the population into the flood prone areas, because the population will come, and the poor and vulnerable population, where will they go? They will not be able to go in the higher areas or the well enriched area, but they will definitely come to the floodplain areas, because these areas are less desirable by the higher class people. So the poorer vulnerable sections comes here and reside here, and also the market force are pushing its expansion into the flood prone areas. Okay, first of all, what we need to do, recognize and accept that this is a bigger problem. Okay, and that need to be dealt is the first step towards sustainable urban planning that address the risk. Okay, and you need to understand as well that every city, whether it is like a city of one state or the city of another state, there is a need to have a proper scientific mapping of the flood prone area. Why there is a mapping needed? Mapping needed to understand that which area is more prone to the disaster, which area is more prone to the flooding, so that our resource, our investment, our methodology to tackle it should be invested accordingly. Okay, and we can save our resources. Okay, we can use our resources in an efficient manner. So that is the point. And when we talk about urban government, they need to make housing in such areas more flood resilient and protect the low income housing, because in these area the low income people do reside, the poor people do reside. So Maybe we cannot withdraw them from here, but we can make the household, the housing more flood resilient. And there is an example given like Mishing and the Miali community, which lives along the side of Brahmaputra river. What they do, like they make the household structure in the form of like elevated one, like we have the house in this way, okay, and there is a pillar made up of the wood, okay, and they are at an elevated height, so that any water which comes in the floodplain, along the floodplain, so they can easily pass through these like gap, okay. So these are the things you need to understand. Try to search about this concept, okay, here. So that is the end of this article. Hope you understood. So awareness is needed, and we make sure that the structure of the house that we are making in the floodplain should be resilient to the flooding, okay. So the second important point, and also the government regulations monitoring should also be enhanced. So these all are the scenario, and you can see the picture of flood like condition. In the normal situation we have the river and the water flowing from here, but when there is excessive supply of water, the flood plains will be excessively drained by the water, and here any household will be, if present, then definitely the water is getting to damage all these household or the peoples or the infrastructure located here, okay. So that is the important article, and hope you understood. And now we are shifting to the second article, and second article, it is related to the incident of the Kerala bomb blast, okay. You remember that on 29th of October about 10 a.m, okay, so there was a blast in the gathering of a convention which was organized by the like Jehovah Witness community, okay. And Jehovah Witness community, I have talked to you about the basic. If you hadn't read that, go to our previous lecture and try to learn from this lecture, okay. It will be very beneficial to understand. So on the minor note, I try to say that Jehovah Witness is a Christian subsect, okay. So there are certain principles associated with that community, but we are not going to that detail. What this article talks about, that we know that the person who is the culprit of this bomb blast, the name is Martin Dominic, okay. And when he performed the task, okay, so they took to the social media on the Facebook and posted a video that why he had done this, and also they claimed the responsibility for the act of terror. So why the person done this? It is actually, his allegation was that the community, okay, the principal, the speech made by the promoters of this community, they are propagating anti-national sentiments, and some of the incident I can tell you, like the person said that they does not allow to sing the national anthem, okay, or they does not allow to take the sweet from other. So these were the issue. So, and to make the concern hearing at the national level, they actually did this, okay. These are the incident that should not be promoted, but this depends on the mentality of the person, okay. If there was a scenario like this, then definitely this article talks that the fair investigation should be done, okay. So that is the point. And one more thing this article talks about, that when this blast happened, okay, so the period after the blast and the period when the person posted their video claiming the responsibility, so between this period like several like persons or the some of the ministers, okay, they started talking that in Kerala the jihadist philosophy is growing, and this incident was due to the Israel-Palestine conflict which is going on. So there was a blame game, and they tried to make it like a communal angle. Okay, so that is not a good thing. We have to promote peace and prosperity, and blame gaming one community with respect to the other community on the religious basis, on the basis that you are minor or the we are major. That is not a good thing. That will escalate the communal tension. Okay, so here what the approach should be that we should have a statement like investigation should be done, rather than we should spread the communal hatred. Okay, and at the last, the article talks about that if there is a truth in his claims, then there is a need that fair investigation is needed. Okay, so that the clarity should prevail, and definitely the case has been transferred to the NIA, okay, National Investigating Agency, and the person has been booked under UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. But after the findings of the report, only we can tell that whether this was like the blame which has been proposed by this person was actually real or fake. Okay, so that is the point in this article, and we have told you already in yesterday's lecture that the person made the bomb from the internet. Okay, they downloaded the manual from the internet and even experimented, and after that they did the incident. Okay, so role of internet, role of the communication, you can see that can have a vast like issue. Okay, so that is the point. Hope you understood. Now we are shifting to the next article, and next article deals with GS paper 3, GS paper 2, and it is also related to the US China relations. So currently we are seeing that the relations between China and the US is deteriorating. Okay, they are not up to the good mark, and this relation which we are seeing current level, actually in the past the relation was very good. Okay, both were like good partners. Okay, and they share their interests, the values. Okay, but when US thought that China is basically rising and challenging the US itself, so US started to maintain its superiority. Okay, and for that you can see that the relations now between these two countries are deteriorating, and US is tackling China with different angles, whether it is social, whether it is defense, okay, whether it is the economic level. And current level, China is also facing the crisis, like the economy is shrinking. Okay, and there is too much voice for democracy in China. Okay, so these are all the concerns which China is facing. But at the current level, the USA has its hegemony. Okay, so that is the point. And when we talk about a stabilization of the relation, so I ask you a question: can you think that whether the relation in the future may be stabilized, specifically in the recent time, in the coming time? Okay, so that may not be possible. Okay, despite the head of the state meets one another and try to resolve the conflict, but chances are very very less. Okay, because the China is actually challenging the hegemony of the US, and any superpower will not tolerate that another power may challenge the hegemony. Okay, so that is the point. And why I am discussing this article, that on November basically, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit is going to happen in San Francisco. Okay, and here this summit can be a significant factor for ensuring peace. In terms of peace, we can say that if the relation between US and China gets normalized, which is very far from reality, then it can also promote peace. Okay. And also, when is a positive outcome of this summit, it can also mean that China, which has a greater linkages with the Iran, so they can prevent the Iran from in promoting disturbances in the West Asia with the help of their like indirect terrorist organization. Okay, like we talk about Hezbollah in Lebanon. Okay, so these all are the things. So if there is a cooperation, then US can tell China that please uh, like uh, uh, talk to Iran so that they do not get any issue in the West Asia, and the West Asia should remain in peaceful while dealing with this issue. Okay. And when we talk about the normalization of the relations, so in the recent time we have seen that the foreign minister of the China or the US secretary is visiting one another's country. Okay, like last week Wang Yi visited the US, and you can see that this visit is the first visit by Chinese foreign minister since the pandemic, in the wake up of recent visit by the US secretary of the state. So before that the US secretary of the state had visited already, and after that we see that Wang Yi visited the US. So this can be a good start for the normalization of the relation. But when we talk about the position of America, okay, so America's stand is clear that we are a superpower and we will maintain our hegemony. It is in the simple scenario. Okay. And you can see that to normalize the relation between US and China, there is a necessity, like said by the Foreign Affairs US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, like high level and repeated interaction is crucial to clean up the misperception, avoiding miscommunications, send unambiguous signals, and also control the downward spirals that could erupt into a major crisis. Okay. And here at the current level, US is in the position of a strength. Why? Because due to the Russia Ukraine war, they have already managed to align the European countries, okay, their allies actually in the form of NATO, and also US is increasing its presence in the Indo-Pacific region with the help of the countries like Southeast Asian nation. We have the Philippines, we have the Japan, okay, we have the other countries also, Australia. We talk about the Quad, including India as well. Okay, so we are seeing that US is in the position of a strength. But when we talk about China, so China's position is little bit weaker, like the economy is crumbling and there are various sanctions and restrictions, tariff barrier, non-tariff barrier, okay, which are faced by the China, okay, imposed by the US. Okay, so that is the point. And what the US want from the China, so you can understand by the statement which was given by the above mentioned statement. Okay. And also when we talk about the national security strategy which was released last October of the US, they talked about that China was the only competitor with both the intent to reshape the international order and increasingly the economic, diplomatic, military, technological power to advance the objective. Okay, that's why US is a little bit concerned. Okay, that's why US is more aggressive against China to controlling their expansion. Okay, and you can see the activities, series of activities which are increasing by the US, like recent conflict between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea, regarding the shoal in the South China Sea. So you can see that US involvement is also increasing. Okay. And when we talk about Chinese allegation, then they are allegating that US is basically trying to contain and suppress the China in all round way. Okay, whether it is economic, whether it is political, okay, whether it is in the matter of investment, whether it is restriction and all of that. Okay, and US is also tightening its export control to Beijing, and they are taking tougher stand on the China Philippines standoff. So we have discussed all this. Okay, and what US want that if we want constructive engagement with the China, that means we need to agree on the 3 point. First is national security of the US and its allies should be like promoted, and along with economic relation that should be based on fair competition. Okay, remember, fair competition. And then we have the cooperation on urgent global challenge. So if relation wanted to be improved, that means we should focus on these pillars. Okay, and US does not think that China will focus on all these. Why? Because the Chinese try to increase the economic without giving recognition to other nations and all of that. Okay, so that is the point. And when we talk about China's stance, so China believes that US remains a formidable military power, but China also thinks that the power of the US is actually decreasing. But that means, whether that means that China will take action against US, probability not. Okay, because the China does not want to take risks. Okay, so that's why they remain peaceful. Okay, they are not so aggressive with respect to the US. Okay, and one more thing, what China wanted from the US, China wanted that first of all, the economic system that China has and the political system that is based on like the communist ideology, that should be adopted by US. But tell me whether it will be adopted. No, because the US promotes democracy and open economy liberalization, but when we talk about China, so that is not in accordingly. Okay, and militarily and politically, China wanted to establish regional dominance in the Western Pacific, but the US or the neighbors of the China, okay, or the members of the South China Sea countries, okay, they contest this dominance. Okay, and it is also reflected that whenever China tried to take any action around the South China Sea or around the members of the Southeast Asian nation, then US and these countries becomes aggressive. Okay, and on the another side, you should remember that always US wants that their hegemony should be remain protected. Okay, that's why if if any country want to challenge the hegemony of the US, that means US will deal with that country. Okay, and this is the approach we are seeing in case of China as well. Okay, and that's why US is preventing the rise of a hegemonic power on either side, on either end of the Eurasia. And when we talk about Eurasia, that means the country of Europe and Asia. Okay, so that is the point. Hope you understood. And when we talk about other important thing, so you need to understand that despite all of these concerns, all of these disturbances in the relation, but the important point to understand, if the relation between these countries is becomes good or the improves, okay, so there will be a better chance that we can deal with the global issue like climate change or the West Asian issue. Okay, but the turbulence is hampering the effective cooperation. Okay, and maybe the next summit of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, where the Biden and Xi Jinping will meet, can improve the relation. Okay, so that is the end of the article. And when we talk about the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, so remember for the prelims that it has 21 members and it is a regional economic forum established in 1989 to leverage the growing interdependence of the Asia Pacific. Okay, and when we talk about objective, so The objective is to ensure greater prosperity for the people of the region, and there should be a balanced economic, sustainable, innovative, and secure growth, and also boosting the regional economic integration. And you can remember the member. Okay, sometimes UPSC for the prelims do ask the names of the member countries. Okay, and when we talk about the headquarter is basically in Singapore. And tell me whether India is member of the APEC or not. Okay, tell me in the comment section. So these are the articles, hope you understood. And now we are shifting to the next article. These are short articles and will be important for the mains and the prelims as well. Okay, so the news is about the rising vacancies in the chief information commissions, if it is state information commissions. Okay, so the Supreme Court tell that there is a need to fill up the vacancy as soon as the possible, and for that the Supreme Court asked the data about the list of the vacancy. Okay, and all of that. So when we talk about Central Information Commission, so it was established by the central government in 2005, and remember it is a statutory body, not a constitutional body, and it has been established under Right to Information Act. So when we talk about members, so it consists of the Chief Information Commissioner and not more than 10 information commissioners, okay, appointed by President. But the appointment will be based on the recommendation of a committee. There will be a committee, and committee will consist of Prime Minister, which will be a chairperson, the leader of opposition of Lok Sabha, and one will be Union Cabinet Minister that will be nominated by the Prime Minister. So based on the 3-person committee, the recommendation of the name given to the President, and President will be appointing. Okay, and when we talk about jurisdiction, so it extends over all central public authority. Okay, what they do actually, they basically try to analyze the case regarding the RTI. Okay, right to information. We know that right to information is a important tool for ensuring the democracy, transparency, accountability in the government officials, in the government authority. Okay, and if any public official denies the giving of the information, then the matter may be referred to the Central Information Commissioner. Okay, and also we have the State Information Commission. And tell me about the State Information Commission, on which act this State Information Commission has been established. Okay, so when we talk about tenure, the Chief Information Commission and an Information Commissioner shall hold office for such a term as prescribed by central government or until they attain the age of 65 years. Okay, and reappointment is not eligible. Okay, they will not be promoted again if already they had served the term. Okay, so tell me why like a reappointment in some of the offices are not given, specifically the office which is very very important. Okay, now we have the next article regarding the maize, which you can also tell like popcorn when they are processed. Okay, when they are cooked. So here this is the image of the maize which was harvested. Okay, and they has been laid down over the road for the drying. Okay, and here this like picture was given in the Hindu, so I extracted this picture. And remember that this road is actually NH65, and NH65 basically connects Pune and Machilipatnam. Machilipatnam is basically like in Andhra Pradesh. And remember, the history of Machilipatnam is very important, and it is also known as port. Okay, and you can understand that this region is a Pune and this is Machilipatnam, and NH65 connects this. Okay, so here we are going to talk about the maize, because for the prelims it can be a common question. So temperature requires between 21 to 27 degrees Celsius. Rainfall requires high, and soil type alluvial soil is required, although on the another soil they can also grow. Okay, and when we talk about top maize producing state, we have number 1 Karnataka, number 2 Maharashtra, number 3 Madhya Pradesh. Okay, and when we talk about production the worldwide, So India is seventh largest producer worldwide, and it is used as food and fodder as well. And when we talk about fodder, basically it means for the animal purpose. Okay, and when we talk about some of the other question, tell me, like who is the largest consumer of maize in the world, and who is the largest producer of maize in the world? This can be the most probable question for the prelims. Okay, that is the important thing. Hope you understood. When we talk about distribution of maize, so we have already talked about the state. Okay, you can also locate on the map as well. So now we are moving to the next article, Aralam Wildlife Sanctuary, Kerala. So why this wildlife sanctuary is in news? It is not because this region had find a unique species, but it is all because here mouse operation, like here, which was in news, and here the mouse opened fire at Aralam Wildlife Sanctuary. Okay, so that's why it is in news. But here, for the prelims purpose, we need to remember that it is in Kerala. Okay, and tell me the unique species located here. And this Aralam Wildlife Sanctuary, you know that Kerala is a part of like Western Ghat. Okay, so that means this sanctuary is rich in biodiversity. So that is the point. And we have the next article, and this next article is related to the issue of the political biasness that are going regarding the presiding officer, okay, in Maharashtra. So Supreme Court also observed this issue, and remember that the Shiv Sena party of Maharashtra, which was splitted into two, okay, in 2022. So the split was caused like the members have the allegations that they have defected. So the speaker, okay, need to decide on the defection case. Okay, we have talked about the anti-defection provision under the 10th schedule. So there is a pending case of defection to be treated against the defected members, but already like 2 years is going to happen. Okay, but the speaker didn't taken any decision. That's why Supreme Court interfered again, and Supreme Court has given the deadline that the case should be dealt by the Maharashtra speaker, Maharashtra Legislative Assembly speaker, okay, by 31st of December. Okay, regarding the Shiv Sena party split and the defection. So that is the point. And here we have already discussed the article. If you hadn't understood, then you can visit to the older lecture. But here I am also quoting some of the important things where you can quote in the mains answer writing, like the recent judgment in which the Supreme Court dealt with the power of speakers under the 10th schedule. Okay, so you can see that despite we have the anti-defection law, we have the 10th schedule, but when it comes to the decision on disqualification of the members, specifically when they belong to the ruling party, that means there is a chance of biasness. Okay, so how we can ensure that the provisions of the anti-defection should be applied in a correct way? So there is a judgment you can also quote for the means, like in Kesham Meghchandra Singh versus Manipur Speaker 2020, it was the case. A 3-judge bench led by Justice R.F. Nariman said that a speaker should decide disqualification petition within a maximum of 3 months unless there are exceptional circumstances. Okay, and remember that the party split of Maharashtra, Shiv Sena, okay, it was like in May 2022, but it has been like more than 1 year, and even the action has not been taken. And in another case, like in Karnataka MLA disqualification case 2019, 3-judge bench led by Justice N.V. Rama held that a speaker who cannot stay aloof from the pressures and wishes of his political party does not deserve to occupy his chair. That indicates that even a person get the chair of a speaker. Okay, despite that, the political biasness which are related to the party that they belong to doesn't gets eliminated, and that's why the defection cases remains pending. They are not resolved, or anything that are against the interest of their political party, they remain stuck in the house. Okay, so that is the point, and hope you understood. And now we are ending our session with the prelims question solution. Okay, so the answer is fissure volcanic rock. Remember that when we talk about black soil, they are actually originated by disintegration or the weathering of the volcanic rock. And how the volcanic rock gets formed, it is actually the magma which comes out from the earth's interior. Okay, and they spread on the earth's surface, and with the time they start disintegrating with the external factors. Okay, and they ultimately become the soil, and they are in black color because they are mostly rich in basaltic content. Okay, so that is the point. And when we talk about other features of the black soil, that means they are poor in phosphorus, nitrogen and organic matter, and they are black in color because it is volcanic in origin and also created from igneous rock, and it is also called a regular soil. And this is very important for the cotton. Okay, the cotton growing. Okay, that's why you can see that this region is known as the cotton belt. Okay, and black soil distribution is spread across the Deccan region, which comprise of Maharashtra majorly, some parts of Karnataka, some parts of Gujarat as well. Okay, so these are the regions, and which crops are favorable here. So cotton is the most common thing, and again with sugarcane, groundnut, millets, rice, wheat, oilseeds. So varieties of crops can grow here. Okay, so that is the point we have discussed about the distribution. Tell me about the formation of the alluvial soil, how the alluvial soil gets formed. Okay, so this is the end of the article. Hope you enjoyed, and if you definitely liked our session, please do subscribe our channel. Thank you friends, we will meet again with the next discussion. Thank you.